Hey everyone, it's Friday, March 11th, 2022. I'm J.M. Padini, the Development Director for the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws and the Executive Director of your state chapter, Virginia NORML. It's time for Live with Virginia NORML, where we're going to talk about all things cannabis in the Commonwealth and answer your burning questions live. Excited to see everyone here today. Hey Sarah, good to see you, friend. Hi Jake. Hi Ryan. All right, the Virginia General Assembly is almost over. Well, it's supposed to be anyhow. That's right. The Virginia General Assembly is supposed to adjourn tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Hey Sherry, hey Sue, you can keep track of all of the legislation that moved through this session and see how it all panned out. Let's do some quick math here. That's 10, 34, 37, 38 cannabis-related bills were introduced this session. Wow, that's a lot. Only 3 of them succeeded, though. Only 3 bills that are related to cannabis law in any way passed the Virginia General Assembly and are headed to the governor's desk. 29 bills were defeated. 24 of those were just left in committee, never finished, and 5 of them were voted down. 2 bills were continued, including Senator Evans' bill that addressed legalization, retail sales in particular. That was continued until 2023. Now, that doesn't mean that that bill comes up in exactly that same form. It just means we're going to hear it again. We're going to take up the issue next session. And 1 bill was withdrawn. 3 bills got rolled into others. You can take a look at that on our tracker. Thanks to Cassidy for dropping that in the comments. Hey, Lumpy. Hi, Ellie. Well, I'm glad it's lovely there in Charlottesville, Ellie. I think that it's supposed to be cold this weekend. Isn't it going to snow or something like that? Let's see. Oh, no snow. Oh, maybe snow tomorrow. We'll find out. Hi, Marcy. Good to see you, friend. All right. So, we've been through all the bills and what they did and what they didn't do. If you have any questions, definitely ready to answer those. But there's been some talk about what happened with the failure of Senator Evans' 391, and that this was somehow a good thing because it prevented Virginians from being subject to new crimes. Okay, well, on its face, yeah, that's true. But those 2 misdemeanors, wow, that's nothing when you compare it to the 3 misdemeanors, 7 felonies, and 2 mandatory minimums that are now going to be in effect because 391 didn't succeed. There were a number of criminal code sections that were repealed or would have been repealed by the reenactment of the legalization bill, and that didn't happen. So now those penalties are back on the books. Hey, Llewellyn, good to see you. Hey, Brian. I don't know. Well, I assume so, Brian. Maybe someone from G Leaf is watching and can let us know. I know that they have their store in Carytown that I believe is the next one that will be opening. They've got the first one in Manchester, the second one out in Short Pump, and the third one is Carytown. I don't know where their other two are going to go. Oh, Llewellyn, you and so many other people. Sorry, Nicole. Sorry, Nicole. Yeah. Well, thanks to Cassidy for going through and taking a look at all of the sections of criminal code and what's going to happen there. I'm sure there's even more that I'm missing, but I am looking at that delightful spreadsheet you shared, Cassidy. So some things that we were hoping to fix, we've talked a lot about the open container language and how poorly that's written. That didn't get fixed because 391 didn't pass. So everything you know about the possibility for being criminalized for having cannabis in your vehicle still remains. Hey, Sue, I think that Cassidy can probably drop the link to the PDF that was provided by Senator Evans' office. It's not quite as comprehensive as the spreadsheet that Cassidy put together, but I know that VPM linked to the penalties spreadsheet from Senator Evans' office, and I'm sure Cassidy can drop that in the comments for you. Marcy, you want me to talk about the bill that addressed Delta 8 products? So that's a bill by Senator Hanger. It's Senate Bill 591. And we talked about this bill pretty early in session, where it originally set out to do something that's already prohibited in Virginia, and that's to eliminate the ability for cannabis to be in shapes that are appealing to children. So the only cannabis that's regulated in Virginia today is medical cannabis, and things that are appealing to children, shapes of people or animals or vehicles or fruit or whatever it might be. All those things are already prohibited in the medical program. They're just prohibited through regulation as opposed to code. So this bill was originally intending to address that for any adult use products, which, as you all know, is not yet a thing. And then the senator decided to expand his bill and to apply that to hemp products or products that are labeled hemp as well. And then went further with the bill, deciding that it would be an appropriate vehicle to address the wide variety of unregulated products that are on shelves right now that are labeled hemp or labeled Delta 8 or Delta 10 or even Delta 9, THCO, THCP, and consumers really have no idea what those products are. So, Marcy, I'm glad you asked. If you aren't keeping score, 22 other states outright criminalize these products. 22. As does the federal government, which classifies any synthetic THC, Schedule 1 drug under federal law. 22 other states criminalize these products, and Kentucky this week introduced their own bill relating to these products as well. So as the bill has now passed the Senate and the House, what it does is restricts the amount of THC that can be sold outside of a regulated program. It doesn't criminalize it like it does like other states do. It just says, hey, if you're going to make this and it has more than 0.25 milligrams of THC per serving or 1 milligram per package, then it has to be licensed and regulated. So that's the short version of that bill, Marcy. Hey, Sue. For example, the under 1 pound at home, is that dry or wet weight? It's not any, it's just 1 pound. Our laws aren't that specific here in Virginia, or really in most parts of the country. Hey, Michael. Michael, did the legislature realize that the criminal penalties increased if they didn't pass it? Some members did, for certain, absolutely. I mean, the members who were working on this legislation, who are helping draft it and move it along, understood absolutely that it was necessary to pass this legislation to amend criminal code. And I like your question. Michael asks, for next year, is it better to have small bills instead of a giant bill? Yeah, all day long. And in fact, Michael, that was our policy, our strategy recommendation this year. That's why there were multiple versions. That's why there were bills that addressed sales for adults through already open dispensaries, separate from licensing new retailers. And absolutely, we need to have very, very skinny bills when we come back next session. I think it's also, I hope Virginians and legislators alike take the time in the interim to get a grip on the reality of Virginia. Democrats control the Senate, and Senate Democrats are much more conservative than House Democrats. In the House, that's controlled by Republicans, and the administration is a Republican administration. So when people are, thinking about what they want legislation to do, read the room. If it's not appealing to folks in the majority, it's not going to happen. That's the reality of passing cannabis legislation, or really any legislation in Virginia. For those of you who are new to this, we've been passing cannabis legislation for years now in Virginia, beginning way back in 2015, when the legislature was in fact controlled by Republicans. So this isn't a new scenario for us. But I will tell you, this session is probably the worst one we've ever experienced, and the partisan nonsense was neck deep. Hey, Christopher, what does 591 mean for whole flower hemp? Nothing. And hemp farmers, nothing. It doesn't mean anything for hemp farmers or for flower products. It's the same 0.3% it's always been. Okay, I feel like we had this question in some form last week. No, your plants are your plants, and you can have your 4 plants in their pots. That's the 4 plants per household are allowed by law, right? But then how much cannabis can one possess? I guess it's called marijuana in code. You can have code just says the same. It's not going to say anything different. It's going to say what it said last year or today. You can possess on your person or in any public place up to 1 ounce of marijuana. That's all it says. Great, Brian. That's good to know. Hey, James in Indiana. Good to see you here. All right, so what we were supposed to be doing tomorrow was going to Shamrock the Block right here in Richmond, right here in Scott's Addition, right there on Boulevard, but there's going to be weather. So Shamrock the Block has been postponed until the 20-something. I know what calendars look like. We just moved into a new office, so I can't see the calendar here. It is the 26th. So would love to have some volunteers for Shamrock the Block here in Richmond on March 26th. Just look at you, Cassidy, already right on top of that. Yeah, you can shoot us an email at info@virginianormal.org if you'd like to volunteer to help staff our tent at Shamrock the Block. Hopefully it won't be super windy or snowing or whatever it's supposed to be doing tomorrow. It'll be great to be back out there. We have lots of fun new merch for Shamrock Block. We have patches, we have socks. We have shirts, so it'll be a good time. Hey, Tom in Louisiana, good to see you. Indiana and Louisiana, my colleague Jax does a show on Fridays. Also, right before I do this one, you can watch it again on replay on our Facebook. She covers all the states. All the states. Christopher, I don't know what that is, but I do know that Homegrown is right down the street from us here in Scott's Edition. Hey, if you're watching from anywhere else in the country or, the world, really, just like our friends James and Tom are, and you'd like to start a normal chapter of your own, we'd be thrilled to help you do that. You can just shoot us an email at chapters@norml.org. That's chapters@norml.org. And we'll help you get started. Brian, I have no idea what the high time schedule is for the year, but I'm sure someone can look on the internet machine for you to find out. I forget to, Brian. I have no idea. So friends, all of the cannabis laws that you know and love over the past year, well, a lot of them are going to change. What's not going to change is your ability to possess on your person or in any public place up to 1 ounce of marijuana. You still can't consume in public. You can still cultivate for personal use up to 4 plants per household. You want to be real sure that you tag your plants, though, friends, and you tag them properly, because untagged plants or improperly tagged plants can lead to a Class 6 felony. That's because there's no penalty specified in the law as it's currently written, and when there isn't a specified penalty, it defaults to a Class 6 felony. So be sure you tag your plants. You got to have your first name, your last name, your driver's license, or your state-issued identification number on the tag, and that they are, in fact, for personal use. You also have to take precautions to prevent access by those under 21, and your plants cannot be visible from a public way, because if they are visible from a public way, then that's right, you guessed it, you could be subject to a Class 6 felony. So make good choices, friends. Hey, Heather, I'm so glad you asked. So, Heather, if you are a medical cannabis patient in Virginia, that means you've, at this point in time, gotten your written certification from a registered practitioner and registered with the Board of Pharmacy, though that is going away. If you have done both of those things, then patients can possess up to 4 ounces of botanical cannabis. Now, technically, botanical cannabis is what we call cannabis flower that's been dispensed from the licensed dispensaries in Virginia. So you can have 4 ounces. Yeah, Ryan, that is pretty ridiculous. But that's how the code was drafted last year. And because we weren't able to pass a bill to address some of the, let's say, deficiencies in code that exist, it's going to stay the same. And when there isn't a specified penalty in code, it can be a Class 6 felony. Hey, Tara, thanks for asking. So what's still in play in the General Assembly is the budget. And there are amendments in the budget to provide funding to the Cannabis Control Authority to hire staff and to hire enforcement agents. And there's a budget amendment to fund the Office of the Attorney General's Office of Consumer Protections to have the same oversight over cannabis products that they do for other consumer-related issues. So those things are in motion with the budget. We'll see what shakes out in the end. There could be some other changes as well. We just have to see what happens, with the budget. Hopefully they'll start hiring some people like a CEO soon. The Cannabis Control Authority is required by statute to absorb the medical program by next year. So that kind of works in our favor, I suppose, because the authority can't just be left to do nothing with just 2 employees, which is what it has right now, because it does have to statutorily absorb the medical program. So that's good news. There's a desire because of that statute to fund the CCA and start staffing it up and getting it more operational. You're welcome, Heather. Not soon enough, Nicole. There's a backlog of 8,000 patient registrations. So the sooner that the registration requirement for patients can go away, the better. And the way the legislation passed the General Assembly is just with a regular enactment date, and that would be July 1st. But the governor does have the ability to speed that up. Either by adding an enactment clause to make it take effect sooner, or by adding language to the budget that allows Board of Pharmacy to have this take effect sooner than July 1st. So for this, at this point in time, July 1, but let's see what happens both with the budget and with reconvened day. That's what we also call veto session. And that will be in April. So great question, Nicole. We'll just have to see. And I know there's a real desire by Board of Pharmacy to expedite that as well, and eliminate that backlog of patients waiting to, get their cards. Hey, Michael. It's other states' laws that dictate the requirements for reciprocity there. Now, since there will not be a requirement for a patient to have a card in Virginia, just the written certification, it doesn't mean the ability to get one altogether is going away. Patients will still be able to get a card from Board of Pharmacy if they want one. But also, the certificate that practitioners use right now, as I'm sure all of you know, is pretty simplistic. It, is just a simple PDF. That form was created by the Supreme Court of Virginia, and the creation of that form is being moved from Supreme Court over to Board of Pharmacy. So Board of Pharmacy is going to make a new form. And we've asked if Board of Pharmacy might consider making a form that looks better than the one that exists now. I do know that patients have been able to use their written certification in other states to get reciprocity, but wouldn't it be better if the form looked more substantial, had the seal of Virginia on it, looked like you didn't just make it at home in Word. So hopefully we're going to have a better looking written certificate for patients from the get-go, so that hopefully that addresses any reciprocity concerns for those patients who don't get a card. We'll see how that goes. Oh, great. Thanks for letting us know, Nicole. We have a lot of patients complaining too. It's unfortunate that there's such a backlog, isn't it? But hey, at least everyone was in agreement that we should get rid of it this year, and those bills were passed much earlier in session and are two of the three bills that succeeded this session. The House version having been by Delegate Roxanne Robinson, and the Senate version being by Senator Siobhan Donovan, longtime medical cannabis champion here in the Commonwealth. And those bills did not have a problem making their way through the legislature. So, all right, friends, if you're watching later, not live, hey, if you still have questions, you can drop those in the comments and we'll take a look over the weekend and get back to you, hopefully, with answers. If not, you can just send us an email at info@virginianormal.org. And we'll try to answer them for you. Sue, you're welcome. I like your comment so much that I think everyone should see that. Yeah, and you know, there was some legislation to address that as well, how disparately marijuana laws are enforced in Virginia. For example, Senator Morrissey had a bill that would have said that if there was still a pending case for marijuana possession, that I smell marijuana, a search that resulted from I smell marijuana alone would not, that evidence would not have been admissible. And while that bill did succeed in the Senate, it died in the House, unsurprisingly. So, you know, in some jurisdictions in Virginia, judges are saying, oh, well, this new law is in effect, so I'm going to disregard that evidence. It's not going to be admissible. And then in other jurisdictions, it's being used against defendants. Michael, thank you. You are welcome. Hello, Ralph from Alabama. Ryan, you are welcome. I don't want to swallow tiny ice chips. Ralph, I hope you're going to get involved with Alabama NORML. That's what I hope for you. All right, friends. I do love spending this time with you every Friday. It's so much fun. Let's do it again next Friday. I'm really happy that the Virginia General Assembly is coming to a close. Wow, it's been a brutal session. Thanks to all of you for playing along with the home version, tracking legislation, asking questions, sending emails, making calls to legislators, and, you know, all around being involved and being great advocates for common sense cannabis policy here in Virginia. Hey, Kimberly, thank you. Oh, look at that. It's a new office, so it's time once again for your favorite game. When will the lights go off in the middle of a show? It's way over there. I can't, there's nothing I can do to reach that light thing, whatever it's called. Hey, Jennifer, good to see you. Thank you. All right, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you back here next Friday. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.